In this session we're going to look at creating random numbers. We're going to be using a form and we're just going to run it on the onload. So I'm just going to double click the form on the outer edge and you notice now it's got form 1 load. So when the form opens up, automatically run this code. So first thing we need to do for generating random numbers, we're just going to put some developer comments in here. We need to declare some variables. So the first thing I'm going to do is do my variables. And the first variable we're going to create is dim iRandomNumber. And we're going to do this as an integer. So this has created a memory space called iRandomNumber, and we're going to create a random number and display it in there. So when we output, we're going to use a message box. And we're going to message box out the contents of the iRandomNumber. So now we need to look at doing some processing. Now to do this, we're going to have iRandomNumber is going to be equal to. So the result of this is going to go in there. And the first thing we're going to do is actually create a random number, which is RND bracket bracket. And then we want to output the result of random number. So let's have a look at this program now. So on the load, we've automatically got the message box and the answer is 1. So let's run the program again. And the answer is 1. Now the reason for this is the fact that an integer is a whole number. So what we need to do is look at our variable type and declare this as, because we're looking for a decimal pointed answer, a double. Now this will allow us now to have decimal points. So you see on the onload. When we create a random number, it actually creates a number between 0 and 1. So in this case here, it's 0.70554, etc. So it's greater than 0, but it's less than 1. So when we run the program again, we have 0.70554. Now in Visual Basic, we need to initialize our program. So initialization is important for random numbers, and there is a function that we run which is called randomize bracket bracket. This calls an inbuilt function which, as you can see in the comment, is a subpart of the VB Maths module that actually makes sure that the first random number generated by RND is unique, and therefore it won't start with the same number every time. So when we hit start, we've got a 0.81. And hit start again, we've got 349. Okay, so now we're generating a pure random number, but it's not the size we want. If we actually want to generate a random number for a dice roll, we need to actually times it by the upper level. So we times that by upper limit. And we'll make this an integer, and therefore we need to declare this. And because it's a different variable type from double, we need to declare this separately. So I upper limit. So that's the maximum size of the dice as an integer. And we can then under initialize set that I upper. We can actually set that to be equal to 6. So if we're just doing a normal dice roll. So now the output should be a number between 0 and 1 times 6. So we've got 1.7, 5.3. Now you notice we've got a decimal pointed answer here, and so we need to actually round that number off. To do that, we can actually use a math method. So we can actually go Math.Ceiling and then round off this section. So the result of the random number times the upper limit, round that off to a whole number using Math.Ceiling, and then display that. So let's run the program again. You see we have a 6, 5. So you can see that's generating a random number for us. So we can actually create a random number using a compound statement of a random, the function, times the upper limit we want. So at the moment we're using the Math.Ceiling, which rounds up. We can also use other parts of the Maths module, such as floor, which will round down. So anything that is above 0 will round down to 0. Otherwise, we can just use the normal round, which will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will round down, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 will round up. But in the case of a dice roll, we want to use ceiling. Now, if we wanted to actually have a random number between 20 and 30, so this is like a mid-random number. What you need to remember, if we have a number between 20 and 30, so we can have 21 all the way up to 30. What we have in here is what's known as the base. Now the base is the lower. Okay, so the base is lower, so this will be actually 20. And then we want random numbers between 20 and 30, which is a random of 10 numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So to get the answer to this, we need to actually have the random number, which is like 10, plus its base. So if we generate a random number 6, add 20, we get 26. If we get a 1, we add 20, we get a 21. So this is how we do a mid number, so between 20 and 30. So depending on what the range is, which is the random, so if the range is 15, it's the random number generated in the range from 1 to 15 plus its base. So if you want a number between 50 and 100, it'll be a random number 50 plus 50. So if it generates a 40 plus 50 would then give you 90. So that's how we find the mid part. So to do this, we actually need a base. So we need to create some other integers. So we're going to have iBase, and also we're going to have iRange. So the range is the random number range. So to set this, we're going to set iBase, if we're looking between 20 and 30. We just need to correct this. Is equal to 20. Then we can set iRange is equal to 10. Then we need to change our random number here from random number times, rather than I upper limit, this will be iRange. And then what we want to do is round that, which is the Math.Ceil, and then we want to add the base onto it, so iBase. So this now will generate a random number between 20 and 30, because 20 plus 10 is 30. So the base and the two numbers added together will give you the upper limit. So let's see how this program works now. We have 29 and 26. So in this tutorial we've had a look at the onload function, where it automatically runs the code when it first opens. We've actually added a couple of developer comments. We've created a double integer, which allows us to have decimals, versus integer, which needs to be a whole number. We've looked at what the random function generates as a decimal point and answer between 0 and 1. We've set its range. We've also looked at using it for a dice roll, using an upper limit, and then adjusting it to give us a random number between two numbers. So in our case, in the example of 20 and 30. So I hope you found this tutorial useful, and I'll see you in the next one.